Yo ho ho, the winds do blow, oh for a life on the rolling sea. Ahoy shipmates, I'm Brian of Holcombe and I love the West Country. Why don't you join me while we go southwest? Love, for when I return, united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that grieves me, but my darlings, when I think of thee. Hey! Have a great day in Polperro, everybody. Love you all. Today we've dropped anchor off a picturesque fishing village called Polperro. With its unspoiled architecture, charming harbour, rugged and beautiful coastline and sleepy feel, you'd never guess that this little village had such a criminal past. This magnificent stretch of the British coastline is known as the Polperro Heritage Coast. There are miles of stunning coastal pathwalks and cliff walks and shore walks extending east and west, coves and caves, beaches and bays, all waiting to be explored. The path heading east from Polperro to the harbour town of Looe, narrow and stony in places with steep ascents and descents, but after a steep climb out of the Polperro area, the gradients are most fair and gentle. This part of Cornwall had lively trading links with the Mediterranean, even in prehistory times, and it is said that once Jesus visited Looe, accompanied by his uncle, a tin trader, Joseph of Arimathea. But in more recent centuries, this stretch of the coastline became synonymous with fables of smuggling. Zephaniah Job's the one you want to be looking after. We'll be looking more into that later on. These beautiful fishermen cottages that you can see behind me cling to the steep hillside of this magnificent ravine, as the River Pol ambles peacefully through the village to a shallow harbour of crystal clear turquoise water and colourful boats. I assume you landlubbers haven't arrived by sea, in which case first thing you'll notice is that you're prohibited to go into Polperro town. Therefore, you'll need to park your horseless carriages in the car park provided. Opposite the car park, there's a 14th century mill called the Horn. And this is quite a fantastic building. We look at it. We also look into the history and we find that Zephaniah Job once had ownership of this establishment. Well, Zephaniah was the banker for the smugglers. And how did he become that? He became that by, first of all, being legitimate with the Crown and looking after the privateers, local privateers of the area that went out, captured ships, brought their booty back to land, and this was classed as a counting house for that procedure. A third of the money went to the Crown, so they were happy. A third of the money went to the captain, and a third of the money went to the crew. This is the entrance to the village, so you go down the village, 15 minutes, 10 minutes will get you into the harbour area of Pol. It's called by the locals, not Polperro. That's from the River Pol. Well, I've had a lovely pint served up by some very friendly people. Ross, the landlord there, was well pleased to see us. We had a good old sing-song in there, and looking forward to you coming down. Let's go and have a closer look into town, shall us? You've got to stop by the model village in the town, absolutely excellent. It's where you can see a scaled down miniature version of this beautiful town in its full glory. Absolutely wonderful. Feel like diving in and having a swim or do. I'll tell you what, I've got to go now because I've just seen my mates in the pub, the crew members down there, they're in there, and I've got to go in for a drink. I don't know how the hell I'm going to get in, but I'll give it a good go. Rich in a history of smuggling and fishing, this enchanted harbour is highly recommended for a day's visit for young buccaneers and pirates of all ages. Fishing was the traditional occupation for Polperro families. For many centuries, the port has been a pilchard fishery and processing centre. The pilchard shoals diminished in the 20th century, and by the mid-1960s, pilchard fishing had died out in Polperro as the mainstay for the villagers. Polperro is still a working fishing port, and at high tide the boats can be seen and loading their catch. Fresh fish and seafood are available at the harbour, at the kiosks at the side, and also in the restaurants and the bars and the cafes. So there's a full selection here, plenty of grub to get hold of. In 1762, John Wesley came to the village of Polperro. You might have heard his name. He was the founder of the Methodist churches. And here's one of the churches that he had built here. He came in 1762, and the first thing he said was that the whole village, to a man, was involved in smuggling, the accursed trade, he called it. And he put about to set that right and spent 6 years preaching to the villagers.
My father was the keeper of the Edison light, and he slept with a mermaid one fine night. And from that union there came three, a porgy and a porky, and the other was me. Yo ho ho, let the winds blow free, oh for a life on the rolling sea. One night as I was trimming up a glim, singing a verse of the evening hymn, I heard a voice shout, ahoy! And there was my mother sitting on a buoy. Ho ho ho, let the winds blow free, oh for a life on the rolling sea. Oh, where are my children three? My mother then did ask of me. One was served on a chafing dish, the other was sending as a talking fish. Yo ho ho, let the winds blow free, oh for a life on the rolling sea. Oh, the phosphorus flashed in a seaweed hair. I looked again and my mother wasn't there. But out of the night came echoing a voice, to hell with the keeper of the Eddystone light. Yo ho ho, let the wind blow free, oh for a life on the rolling sea. There we go, lovely job. Let's get on to the museum. Follow me.
We've come to the Warren overlooking the harbour to the Heritage Museum to investigate more of the dark history of smuggling and piracy at Polperro. The village was notorious for smuggling activities during the 18th and 19th century, when Britain was at war with America, France and Spain. The wars led to high import taxes, making it worthwhile for the smugglers to sneak the goods in rather than pay those high taxes. Everyone conspired to hide the duty-free goods. When John Wesley first visited the village in 1762, he remarked that all the locals were involved in smuggling. Oh, it brings a tear to my eye, it does. I'm so proud of them. However, later on in the 19th century, the Coast Guard introduced hard penalties for smuggling, which massively reduced the problem, and the free traders have long since sailed into folk history. From the end of the 19th century, Polperro attracted many distinguished artists and photographers. It has barrels of information. You can come and find out and discover the long history of Polperro, also of the Polperro knit frock. And to top it all, Polperro's £5 note that was issued with the authority of London by Zephaniah Job.
The harbour is exceptionally pretty and well worth a visit. Yachts are moored in the sheltered bay, and pleasure trips are on hand to offer half-hour trips along this wonderful coastline towards Foy. These trips are usually accompanied by a running commentary from the boatmen, who may tell you a little more about the dangerous history behind this picture postcard facade. Polperro has a small sandy beach located just outside the main breakwater. The beach is in front of Willie Wilcox's cave. Willie Wilcox was believed to be a smuggler, and as the custom men came after him, he went into the cave to hide and was never seen again.
We don't know whether he escaped or whether he got washed away by that tide. Trips leave Polperro's inner inlet and take you along the wonderful coastline. Along this wild and rocky shore is a tidal pool used for swimming, located on the seaward side of Chapel Rock, just behind me. The pool was built in the 1940s, and Polperro Beach has been popular both by holiday makers and children and locals for generations. By the 14th century, Polperro was a busy port, and the villagers became wealthy enough to build their own chapel. It was completed in 1391 and dedicated to St. Peter, the patron saint of fishermen. The chapel was originally built on Chapel Point, above the harbour, but was moved about 200 years ago to here on Peak Rock, where it stands today. In more recent years, the ground floor was used for boat building and the top for storing sails and pilchard nets, hence its name, Net Loft. It is entirely off-grid. The roof is integrated with 45 solar PV tiles and useful low LED lighting throughout the building. It was once stood empty at the edge of the harbour and is now available to the community to use as often as they want for such events as the art exhibition that recently happened. And then we're going to go for a walk around the streets and the lanes. We're going to follow the lanes that the old smugglers would have followed, and we're going to imagine that people are there with wheelbarrows full of fish as they're taking the wheelbarrow back to their cottage. The cottages were built in order to store a lot of the fish that were there and all the nets and the equipment for shipping, and the top part, the loft part, would have been for all of the sailors to live and sleep and bring their children up. The wonderful thing about Polperro at the moment, really, I think, is the way that they managed to keep a lot of the small buildings. They still maintain that character. It's coming towards the end of the summer season today, so we've got people around, but it doesn't interfere with the atmosphere of Polperro. It's been a very peaceful afternoon that we've had. We've just spent an hour and a half by the harbour with some fish and chips. We got that from a shop called Chip Ahoy. They serve up a good brew there. Everywhere that you go in Polperro, you'll notice that there's reminders and symbols of the maritime past. The barrels there, always love to see the barrels I do. They would have been full of booty, full of wine and brandy, all kinds of things we could have got in those. And during the days, they would have been a lot larger as well. Pasty house, what a wonderful. Let's have a look at some of the traditional steak pasties here. There's Cornish pasties. The Cornish pride themselves on pasties. Great giant traditional pasty here, Cornish pasty, a cheese and bacon pasty. It does go on. I do love a pasty, I must say. And now as we come around the corner here, well, I say corner, we don't really have corners in Polperro. We have rounded buildings so that the devil couldn't hide behind the corners. It might have been a customs man, I don't know. Let's come back and have a look down the River Pol as it's going there. This tradition has it that this is the path that the smugglers would take their goods at night after 12 o'clock along the stream to stop all of the noise of the donkeys making any noise, keep it all quiet, be pitch black dark, especially with cloud cover. We'll get a lot of that here, working its way all the way up to the top, and we've got these high ravines, really high. I mean, we're probably going, what, 300 foot up on there. These would have been totally wooded back in the day, perfect hiding places to hide any goods that had been brought ashore without paying the tax on, to hide from the customs people. For lovers of art and beauty, you must visit the Polperro Gallery of Art. Here it is. Here it is, my friends. This is an organisation that got together to maintain the creative abilities and show off the skills of the local people to keep the flow of art and creativity alive in Polperro. As hard as it may be to believe, we've ended up in a pub again. Oh dear, what a pity, never mind. We're at the Crumplehorn Inn. We do hope that you've been inspired to visit Polperro and come yourselves. We've had a great time here and we do hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and share, that will really help us to grow. We would really like to welcome your comments, and if there's somewhere you would like us to visit, make a comment and let us know. That's all from us today, and now we're going to sit down and enjoy the company of Three's Company, a band that's playing at the Crumper Horn Inn. Cheers. See you soon.